Okay, now you guys can hear me. All right. So we are so excited for today's session. We're just letting you know as you are coming in, there is no poll, but just please feel free to use the chat to drop in what state you live in and if you are already a Cox Campus member. And what is your role? What best describes your role? We want to get to know you a little bit better. We have Tennessee, Alabama, Florida. This is great from everywhere. Tennessee, an instructional coach. Welcome.
North Carolina, Oklahoma.
This is great. Educational service agency, trainer, consultant in Mobile. Hello, hello.
Yes.
We are so glad that everyone could join us today. We are so excited for our session. Okay, we're going to give it about another minute and we're going to go right into our slides. We have Virginia. Hello, Virginia. Thank you for joining us.
Vicki, thank you. You love Cox Campus. We see many of you from Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think we can go ahead and get started. How do you feel about that, Karenza?
I feel good. Let's do it.
All right. So if you are not already a member of Cox Campus, please take the time to log on. We are going to drop the website in the chat. It's coxcampus.org. You can go and sign up. And so be sure to create a membership, and it's completely free and always accessible for you. We even have a mobile app so you can join on your computer or your cell phone. You can download the app. So it's always there if you need it. And like I said, that website will be in the chat for you. And we can go to the next slide. Okay, so today's session, just want to let you know, it'll all also be assessed on the Cox Campus website. You can access it from there as well. On the Cox Campus website, you'll be able to find courses, resources, and a community. We are all a community of educators, families, healthcare providers. Everyone is a community. We can all learn from each other. And the website, again, is free due to the support of our generous donors. So it's a great resource to have. And again, that link to coxcampus.org is in the chat, and you can sign up at any time. And just want to let you know that our courses qualify for professional development credit through Bright from the Start and IASET. So you can get credit, approved credit for our courses through those agencies.
Thank you so much, Ashley. So welcome everyone again. We are so glad to have you join us today. Today we are going to be diving into instructional coaching for change in children's futures. At this moment, you will see a poll that pops up. And we just want to know if you have taken today's featured course. And so on your screen, you should see a question. If you could just click on yes or no and just let us know if you are familiar, if you have completed the course that we are going to be discussing today. We would love to see that. Today, I would also like to go into our goals and just talk around during our time today what we're going to be exploring. If we can go to our next slide. Okay, so for today, we are going to be focusing on, understanding the value of coaching as a personalized relationship and professional learning approach. We are also going to look at learning the value and effectiveness of instructional coaching and improving the teacher's ability to impact language and literacy outcomes for children. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how we engage with teachers effectively and using those adult principles when we're having those engagements with teachers. And to tell you a little bit about ourselves, I would love just to kind of just let you know about me. I've been in education for the past 19 years, and I love being a catalyst for change and eradicating illiteracy in our communities and really all over the world. It gives me great joy to provide these tools of the science of language and literacy in every adult that's involved in a child's ecosystem, and being able to ensure that they'll be afforded that opportunity to choose their own path in life. And what do I like to do in my free time? Well, I have 2 boys that I love spending time with, and I love, love, love watching old movies with my 90-year-old grandmother because she dictates and talks all the way through them.
Thank you, Corinza. And I would also like to share a little bit about myself. My name is Ashley Montgomery. I have been in education for the past 13 years, and I am passionate about educational equity. I really believe that all children deserve to have equal access to resources and quality education to develop the knowledge and skills that they need in order to become successful in this society. And in my free time, I love to travel and do anything outdoors with my family. I have a 3-year-old daughter, so we love to go on walks, hike trails, just be outside and enjoy the weather. So we are going to dig right in and start our session for today. So why is this work so critical? Because we are in a public health crisis, and it's affecting our communities and our nation's future. Statistics show that 34% of our country's children read on grade level by the 4th grade. So most impacted are the disadvantaged and minority children. So with that being said, the implication is that 66% of our children, those who do not read proficiently, are likely to grow up with limited education and poor health, and with little hope of leading a choice-filled life. And children who are not reading proficiently by the 4th grade are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school on time. And this can have serious consequences later in life. So research tells us or shows us that individuals who do not graduate from high school have a higher probability of developing addiction and serious health issues and experiencing unemployment and economic hardship. So their chances to live a happy and productive life are severely diminished. So science tells us that our brains aren't wired for reading. They must be built and prepared for this specific function. And all of this construction and preparation begins early. So in a child's first years of life. And early experiences shape children's brains and their capacity to learn, communicate with others, and respond to daily challenges. So this work is so critical. And every child and adult interaction is laying that foundation for language and preparing the brain for reading. So this is why it's so critical, again, in these early years. And children must learn in language-centered environments in the context of established, safe relationships that support the construction of their brains. So, knowing that the early years are critical, the work that we do as instructional coaches and all the goals that we set and practices that we implement and coach around are all child-centered. At the Rollins Center, our work is primarily focused on children's language and literacy outcomes. So we've developed a framework to help educators and leaders better understand what to expect from children in areas of their development in the early years. So this document is essential in the goal development and coaching process. that happens at the sites that we support. And these developmental outcomes are aligned with Georgia's early learning standards, so GELS, and the Teaching Strategies Goals and Work Sampling, so TSG and WSO. And those are, two widely used assessment tools for young children's development. So we will dig a little bit deeper into this document in later coaching sessions that are coming up within the year-long journey. But this is also available on the Cox Campus website in our resource library, so easy for you to access as well. Okay. So why instructional coaching? So let's talk around why it's important to have instructional coaching. At the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy, we believe that instructional coaching is the vehicle for change, and it has been proven to bring about lasting change in teachers' behavior and in their instructional practices. It can build will, skill, knowledge, and capacity because it addresses the behaviors, practices, beliefs, values, and emotions of the person being coached, and views them as a partner. And that's something that no other form of PD does at the moment. And more importantly, as a result of this change in teachers' behavior and practices, children's outcomes also change dramatically. So research shows that instructional coaching is effective in improving teacher practices and ultimately child outcomes, which we are all reaching for. Despite the many challenges and benefits of instructional coaching and the promise of the impact they can have on children's lives for the future, that's enough to kind of keep us going. So we're going to take a look at a video. This is Steve, an executive director of an early education center, and he talks a little bit about his personal impressions and experiences about the effectiveness of instructional coaching at his site.
Let's listen to Steve, who is the executive director of an early education center, as he talks about his personal impressions and experiences with effective instructional coaching at his site.
I've seen a number of our centers where, and one in particular, I'm thinking about having witnessed it firsthand, where a teacher established that relationship with that instructional coach. And early on, it was a little rocky simply because it was really pushing and stretching the teacher to be thoughtful about, what it is that she's doing with the kids and being very intentional. But once that teacher got hold to it, she really took it and ran. And we saw such a change in the ecosystem of the classroom, not only just with her, but with her co-teacher, and even how the students responded to the story reads and how we saw more questions coming from the kids. And I'm talking about a toddler age group of kids. So, they're really starting to develop, and to see them now as 3-year-olds that are thoughtful, that have language that they're constantly building on, and they're not afraid to express themselves in the classrooms, and families have noticed the growth. It's just a great thing to see.
Okay, so he talks a lot about the instructional coaching and how that change has happened and the positive outcomes that he's seen at his site. I just want to say, feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A box or comments in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them as we go along. Okay, so we just heard from Steve and talking about the benefits of having an instructional coach, working with his teachers in the classroom, and how he's seen those positive outcomes from teachers and children. So let's discuss some of the characteristics of an effective instructional coach. There are many factors that contribute to this effectiveness, but just like other spheres of coaching, the coach is a strong, decisive factor. And a coach first has to be well-versed on the subject. And in this case, we're talking around language and literacy. So instructional coaches, they're knowledgeable of early learning best practices. They understand how children's language and literacy development unfolds and the importance of the relationship between adults and children. They also encourage teachers to remain focused on monitoring children's progress towards expected child outcomes. They are also capable of building relationships. They embrace the person being coached as an equal partner, and they build relationships through conversations, which is so important. They are familiar with the adult learning principles. They believe adult learning principles are essential to effective coaching, and they recognize that adult learning doesn't happen in isolation of previous experiences, knowledge, competencies, beliefs, and interests. And lastly, they are aware of self and the impact on their own beliefs. So they understand that we all have our own beliefs and guiding principles, and that these affect our coaching relationships. And they monitor current beliefs and adopt new beliefs in coaching as needed. So above all, instructional coaching is really a person who's a caring professional who's determined to support teachers, to care deeply for children that they teach and the results that they can achieve. So throughout today's session and our upcoming sessions, we will learn more about practices and tools associated with each of these characteristics and the role they play in the coaching process. So speaking of the coaching process, you may be wondering, like, how does the coaching unfold? So every coaching relationship will involve partnering to analyze what's happening in the classroom and following the ecosystem approach to identify goals related to those child expected outcomes and using the coaching cycle to approach the work. So this process is called the impact cycle. And this was originally developed by Jim Knight and adapted by Rollins. So the impact cycle is made up of 3 phases: the identify, learn, and improve. And so during these phases, instructional coaches and teachers, they work together to identify a child-centered goal and practices that address this goal. And they provide opportunities for the coach to model the practice. So that's what we call our I do stage. And the teacher to learn through guided practice, which we refer to as the we do. And then lastly, independent practice, that you do, which allows the coach to observe the teacher implementing the practice and monitoring progress towards that mastery. And then we refine the plan until the goal is met. And I mentioned in the beginning that we adapted our coaching cycle. So the next slide will show what our coaching cycle looks like. So we've adapted those the Jim Knight framework. And of course, as you see there, throughout the coaching cycle, we also embed our partnership principles throughout, which helps to, build that strong equal partnership and build those relationships with the teachers or coaches that we work with. And we'll be seeing this document a little bit more in our upcoming sessions as we dive deeper into the coaching cycle itself. So now I'm going to let Corinza take it away and let us know more about that traditional professional development versus instructional coaching. Sorry, Corinza, you are on mute.
That just might help. No. So thanks again, Ashley, for discussing some of those benefits of instructional coaching. I would like to take a deeper dive into what are those differences between traditional professional development and instructional coaching. I can just recall and remember sitting in professional development, if we can just go back to the other slide, but just sitting in professional development meetings at my school, where I often felt inundated with loads of information and Sometimes I honestly felt like I was more confused leaving because I didn't know how to implement what I had learned. A lot of times, traditional professional developments appear to be like a one size fits all. I never felt like I was really not supported in the actual implementation. And research shows that classroom practices are more likely to change, and these changes are more likely to be sustained when the teachers are receiving that personalized support. Let's look at the next slide to discuss really looking at some research. Looking at some research as far as what is being said around instructional coaching. As you notice here, the graphic shows that the average retention rate associated with different types of learning experiences. Notice how learning is much more efficient when the learner has the opportunity to practice, engage, participate, opposed to just listening to a lecture. Research does definitely show that the instructional coaching improves both the teacher and the leader practices, and especially those child outcomes when there is that active practice and modeling and so forth. So let's look at the next slide to just discuss what sets instructional coaching apart. If you notice here, a lot of times, even in what sets it apart, we do have observations, modeling, feedback, reflection, and personal relationships. With instructional coaching, a coach and teacher usually work side by side to identify and set those goals. And the coach is available, like I said, to model that practice, do the work alongside with that teacher, and actually give that positive, encouraging feedback, and have time for that reflection, and that personal relationship is definitely impact. Again, I can't iterate enough how research just shows that the classroom practices are just more likely to change. Those changes are more likely to be sustained when those teachers are receiving this personalized instructional coaching support. Now, you may be asking, and there is no wrong or right approach here. There are different types of approaches when it comes to coaching. If you look over there to the left, we actually have mentoring. How is mentoring different from instructional coaching, you may be asking? Mentoring focuses more on the specific individual's development. It does not really pay as much attention to the actual ecosystem or those child outcomes. Professionals or coaches who work more towards the technical assistance on the right-hand side, this is more so centered around those specific programs, the outcomes of specific programs, for example, accreditation documents, applications of that sort. Whereas in the middle, it is in the middle of the continuum, because at sometimes you may include aspects of technical assistance and also mentoring in instructional coaching. But what sets that aside is that instructional coaching is just more extensive than the role of just a mentor, a technical assistant professional. And definitely this is where we're headed, and this is what we're going to be talking around today.
Okay, so we are going to do a quick little pulse check here and see if you can spot the difference. So let's take some time. A poll is going to come up. I'm going to say the scenario, and then a poll will come up, and you're going to state or check or choose whether it's coaching, mentoring, or technical assistance. The first one says, Timothy works for 4 different preschool classroom teachers to develop their skills and support their implementation of early literacy best practices that will improve children's skills in alphabet knowledge, phonemic awareness, and concepts of print. So a poll will launch, and you will let us know, is this coaching, mentoring, or technical assistance?
see some great responses.
Do you see, Corinza, what I don't see on my end? Do you know what the poll status is on that one?
I do see a lot of people who said that it is instructional coaching.
Yes, it is coaching. He is being intentional around his support and working within an ecosystem to help support help support teachers in getting those child outcomes. So that is correct if you chose coaching. Thank you, Corinza.
You're welcome.
The next scenario, Elisa is orienting a new toddler teacher, Juliana, at the Little Angels Daycare to support with a review of the center's policies and procedures. Is that coaching, mentoring, or technical assistance?
Okay.
What do you see, Corinza?
Quite a few responses. Mentoring.
Mentoring.
I do see one or two technical assistants, but mentoring.
Yes, mentoring. She's focused on more of a personal outcome of knowledge for that teacher. So that would be the correct answer, mentoring.
And in this one, I can see where it could have been a little confusing just because you do see the policies and procedures. So that may be more of a technical thought.
Yep. And in that instance, correct also.
Yes.
Maybe give it twofold to a two-part. Okay, and lastly, Katrina has been engaged by Kitty Corner Early Learning Center to support the NAEYC accreditation efforts. She is helping the center prepare and complete all forms required for the accreditation application process. And we only have one left, so forgive me. Technical assistance.
Technical assistance.
Technical assistance, helping to work towards a specific program component. That is correct. All right, Corinza, I'll let you lead us into our next portion. Thank you all for participating.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, so now that I would like to just share with you a brief interaction here between an instructional coach and a teacher. We've discussed the effectiveness of instructional coaching, and I want you to look at the difference between surface coaching and deep coaching. I'm not going to give you too much in the front. I just would love for you to kind of think about what you're noticing in this interaction. As you're thinking through this, be prepared to definitely just share your thoughts with us in the chat, or you can even unmute yourself and just speak to us and let us know what your thoughts are around our first video. Okay.
Hey, Ms. Johnson, thanks for meeting with me today. I was wondering if you could help me figure out how to include vocabulary from our book reading into our lesson plans for this week.
Well, I mean, what's so hard about saying words in a book? You just pick one and use it all day. I will email you a resource of vocabulary words. Just go from there and you got this.
Okay, thanks. Sorry for taking up your time.
All right, we would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts around, now mind you, that is not how Ashley really coaches.
Definitely not.
She is role playing, but please share with us in the chat, or, unmute yourself and tell us what were your thoughts around that coaching experience.
So I see the coach really didn't listen to her request. Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It seemed like she kind of just brushed her off and just not helpful also. Yes, just threw her a resource and said, try this and check it out by yourself. Really, it was, what is that going to yield? It wasn't helpful. Someone said, Shelley said she probably didn't take anything away from it. Very belittling, absolutely. I'm feeling as though that teacher probably just took the resource. You could see that she kind of felt kind of confused. And I love these comments. And standoffish, definitely making her not feel like she was valued and honoring what she really wanted. Probably will not feel comfortable approaching that coach again. Absolutely, Lay. I definitely agree with that. Anna, would you like to share your response?
Oh, about it being confusing and standoffish, and the person kind of like where you make people feel like they're, I don't like to use the word, but like they're not intelligent, and that they're an airhead, and that they should have common sense and already know it.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. Like she really did not honor her voice. She was not feeling valued. She definitely just kind of brushed off everything that she was saying and offered her that resource. Now, let's look at video 2. Thank you so much for your responses. I'm seeing some really great responses. Let's look at video 2 in deep coaching.
Hey, Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for meeting with me. I was wondering if you could help me figure out how to include vocabulary from our book reading into your lesson plans for this week.
Of course. Let me see what you're thinking. Tell me more about the books that you are using. Then we can pick out some targeted vocabulary words to use throughout the day. I can even come in your classroom and model some strategies for you. How does that sound?
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, definitely a different approach. Talk to me. Let me hear. What were your thoughts around that engagement between the coach and the teacher? Again, you can unmute yourself or you can just type a response in the chat. Much more interaction, yes, and guidance. Offered to help her, and Kathy said, and come by and model. So important. Definitely, there was a lot more support. She did not just offer that resource. I also, I am only able to text. Okay, maybe we can unmute. You may be able to unmute now. But definitely it was a lot. I see Lay said encouraging while providing great ideas and how-tos in a way of modeling. Absolutely. I also did notice that she was asking the teacher, tell me more about that. She really, I see Eva even picked up on that, willing to listen to her and offer her support, feeling valued. Definitely, all of these are great responses, and thank you so much for your responses. Ideally, in deep coaching, we really want to make sure that we dive deeper, that you are setting those goals, you're identifying, you're collaborating. And in that approach, we definitely saw that the coach and the teacher were collaborating with each other on ways to support her and hearing from her. So thank you for those responses. Ashley, can you share with us another important factor in effective instructional coaching?
Yes, thank you so much, Corinza. We are going to, go a little bit deeper and go off of that deep coaching video and go into our next slide to show you a video of a teacher and a coach sharing their experience around trust and building those relationships. There are so many factors that contribute to the effectiveness of an instructional coach. But what sets instructional coaching apart, again, we said this, is really the relationship that a coach develops with the person being coached, that they're coaching. So we're going to watch a video of a teacher and a coach. They're going to be sharing their personal experiences around trust and building relationships. And as you watch the video, just kind of think about what interactions between the coach and the teacher, think about their interactions and what they uplift about their relationship.
to say about their experiences. So, if science clearly indicates that children's brain construction and preparation for reading is tied to early experiences that promote language development and critical thinking, why are we not seeing more positive outcomes? Unfortunately, despite best intentions, there is often a disconnect between what science tells us about how children learn best and how they are taught. This misalignment is often linked to a lack of teacher preparation and to limited opportunities teachers have to participate in professional learning that translates the science into meaningful practices applied in classrooms. That's where instructional coaching and you come in. This professional development approach differs radically from other traditional methods where an expert provides information, participants have limited opportunities for interaction, and often there is no follow-up. In this one-size-fits-all approach, teachers often leave the room feeling excited to implement new practices, but not really knowing where to start. They are left without support in the stage where they need it the most, implementation. Research shows that classroom practices are more likely to change and be sustained when teachers receive personalized support. This includes modeling and practice in their work setting from an instructional coach who is skilled, caring, and knowledgeable. I'd like for you to meet Corinza, a preschool teacher, and Shanika, who is her instructional coach. I invite you to pay close attention to what each of them has to say about their experiences with coaching.
I think our relationship is amazing. I love that we get to collaborate with each other. She definitely has me truly as a partner in this approach.
Yeah, I agree. My relationship with Corinza is a true partnership. We are both learners in the partnership. There's certainly reciprocity where we are both learning together about each other as well as learning about the children that we support and serve. And it's a relationship that's really built on trust. And I really enjoy working with Corinza. It's a trusted partner in this process.
It's been valuable to me because Shanika hears me. I feel valued. I feel as though we have a trusting relationship, which is so important in coaching. I love the fact that she models all of the Cox campus strategies and that she gives me feedback, truthful feedback in my work. And so I definitely feel supported with Shanika.
Okay, does anyone have any thoughts they would like to share about Corinza and Shanika's feedback around the importance of building those trusting relationships? And you can drop it in the chat or you can come off mute if you like.
Yeah, I think, can you hear me?
Yes, Sandra. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how's everybody? I think it's good to have a good relationship because a lot of times as an educator, sometimes, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes you feel like the person coming in to help you is coming in to criticize you. And you think that the relationship is unbalanced, that if you even appear to not know something, you might feel like, I don't want to share that with that person because they may go tell, or I don't know, something like that. So when it's a really good relationship, it's really more effective.
No, you are absolutely right. Like one thing that, I heard the word repeated, trusting and partnership. So it's really important that we view each other as equal partnerships, whoever we're coaching, and that we are uplifting, their prior knowledge. We're going to get into that next about really implementing those adult learning principles when we're working with others. So thank you for sharing. That's truly important to make sure that that trust is there. And how do you build that and making sure that you have that partnership and you're learning together? Thank you. Anyone else? Let me see. I'm going to check the chat.
I do see, Catherine, I do feel that building a rapport and trusting relationship is very valuable. It helps to grow personally and to grow as a team and working towards the same goal and outcomes.
That is great.
Yes, and those are child outcomes, definitely. Thank you for lifting that up, Catherine.
Yeah, and I see, Lee, it's extremely important to build trusting relationships between teachers and a coach and instructional coach. There are so many aspects of coaching, and the teachers must trust you thoroughly. Yes, yes. Trust is a big, big part of building those relationships and moving forward. And like you said, achieving those child outcomes. Very important. Thank you all so much for sharing. And as we, saw in the video with Corinza and Shanika, like their repeated engagement helped them to connect emotionally with teachers, with themselves, and to develop that climate of trust. And it's important that teachers feel supported. They feel like if they can be adventurous and try out new things, they're able to take risk. They're able to be reflective in their practice and learn through powerful conversations in which their growth is recognized and celebrated. And they want opportunities to be self-directed, to identify and prioritize goals for themselves in the area of practice that interests them and in which they want to grow. So learning, improvement, and change occur within the context of these trusting relationships. So it's so important for coaching. And so now we are going to talk about those adult learning principles, because those kind of go hand in hand, right? They all kind of go together. The adult learning principles are from a well-known theorist, Malcolm Knowles, and he is recognized as the father of adult learning. And he has 6 research-based adult learning principles to help guide our work as within instructional coaching. And so in everything that we do, we keep these adult principles in mind as we work collaboratively with teachers, leaders, and other coaches. So instructional coaches, we want to make sure that we're always uplifting these adult principles as we work with others. Again, we want teachers and others that we are coaching to choose their learning goals that they're interested in pursuing with some guidance, of course. We want to make sure that we're valuing a coachee's experiences and making ample room for them in the coaching relationship. We want to encourage teachers and others that they coach to really connect their past experiences with their current learning activities. We want those learning outcomes, they're clearly defined into action steps so that the objectives are reached within a given period of time. And then we want to be able to explain that why behind what the learner is asked to do, and that they can more clearly relate it to their own work and their goals. And then we are focused on the application of research-based practices that teachers and others can quickly put into their classroom. So they want to be able to immediately use what they've learned and make sure that it is practical for them. And then we want to see all adult learners as equals and encourage them to share their opinions, experiences, and knowledge throughout our coaching with them. So what happens when these principles are not applied? So we've learned about the 6 adult learning principles, and I want to pose a question. So feel free to drop your answers in the chat. We did talk a little bit about this when we were talking about the trusting relationships, but what do you think happens when those adult learning principles are not applied in a coaching situation? What do you think can happen?
Lisa, do you have a question or a comment? I see that your hand.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Definitely.
Yes.
Please, no, unmute. We want to hear from you. Okay. If there's anyone else, that the teacher will shut down.
Shut down? Mm-hmm. Exactly. will shut down, not feel heard or appreciated.
I see
That's
that.
right.
Just having trouble unmuting. We're working on it.
So, Charlisa, if you also want to drop it in the chat, you can feel free to, and we'll uplift. Make sure that we uplift what you're saying. She will not be as effective. These are all so great.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. These are all great responses and all true. We are going to hear from Darnay. She's going to tell us a little, you guys kind of hit it, hit it right on the hammer with the nail, but hit it right on there. So she's going to explain a little bit about what will happen if these adult learning principles are not applied. So we'll watch out and we'll come back and we can still discuss as well.
There are many risks and consequences of not having the adult learning principles in mind when coaching. For example, if the adult learning principles are not operationalized, motivation for learning may decrease amongst teachers. They may disconnect from the work and ultimately not use the teaching skills required to impact child outcomes. In the end, the children are hurt the most. When adult learning principles are not front and center, the coaching relationship will not be a partnership that is grounded in collaboration and self-reflection, leading to refined teaching practices and improved child outcomes. The risk is not having a trusting, respectful relationship where learning and growing for all is hindered.
All right, so you guys were absolutely right. So when these adult learning principles are not honored, the foundation that enables that deep learning to take place can be shattered. And, the coach or the coachee may not see themselves as equal, or they may be afraid to take those risks that we talked about because they're not in that safe environment where they're able to share openly and feel safe. So you guys are absolutely correct. And Charlisa, just want to uplift what she said. Let me try to scroll back up because I did see that come in, that the motivation will be decreased. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I finally got unmuted, guys. Yay. So I had situations where I tried to train other coaches why their people wasn't coming up in leadership. And I was telling them, I hate to be honest, ladies, but it is the way you approach the teachers that they are not able to self-correct and self-reflect enough that they feel comfortable to share with someone else and pass the growth along. They're always coming back to you and asking you, did I do it right? Am I okay? I said, so you have to understand that relationship needs to change a little. You need to tweak that a little so that they can come to talk to you and you're not the one that's always talking. And that was a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
That was a hard thing to say because as coaches, I mean, these ladies were amazing. They were positive. But it was, like you said, some of those principles, they didn't have a combination of them gelled well. They came across as overbearing in their coaching technique.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think you said something, and Corinne and I, we always say at Rollins, like sometimes you have to have, as a coach, those courageous conversations, right? So you were able to fix that in the moment and really give them valuable feedback that hopefully they were able to mend and help build those trusting relationships at your site. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 7 more minutes. We have so much more content and we definitely want to continue to hear from you. I'm thinking that we are going to just kind of touch on a few more things. I do want to just iterate that we are so looking forward to our next session with you guys. It sounds like you guys are ready to just dive in and dialogue with us. This is more of our foundation around what is instructional coaching, but even that insight that you just shared, Ms. Dixon, around relationships, that will be what we will be discussing more and how that is so important in our work. And so definitely, I want to lift that up again, and we'll be ready to dive into that in our next session, which we will put in a plug later on the exact date, because we want to see you all again. We definitely talked around the people, how we're approaching the relationships, and also around those adult learning principles. But what about the actual culture of the site? What is needed for that foundation, that fertile soil that needs to take place for instructional coaching to thrive, not just as far as our relationships, but the actual site. So let's look at our first one. We want to make sure that the culture is there, meaning that they're like many of you lifted up, that we are considered equal partners, and that we're all taking that responsibility and that ownership for those changes and those results to happen. And then also structuring that support collaboration, meaning common planning, leadership for support for coaching. This is so vital. And many of you can probably relate to this, but thinking about your leaders, the site leaders, that they give you that support as an instructional coach, and also professional development. We need that professional development as an instructional coach, because as you know, we are always forever learning and growing, and we want to make sure that that is always happening. Now, a question to you is that many times these things don't happen, right? The reality of it is there are things that are in our early education that we face many challenges. I want to pose to you, just drop in the chat, what are some of these potential challenges that you may encounter, or that you're facing even currently now at your site, that may make it difficult for you to see these conditions thrive at your site? And I know we're at time almost, but if you can hold on just for, I'm sorry, Laura. So let's just take a moment. We're going to go to slide number 28. And let's talk around this. Absolutely. I see you, Charlisa, again. Yes. If I play Jeopardy, you had the right answer here. But yes, COVID. I see COVID. You, Kay. Yes, there are so many challenges. And just thinking about a few of them, that high turnover. Of course, now we've definitely even encountered that even more with COVID. Also low pay. Just the fact that we may not even have the resources available, and that protected time. We know that there's STEAM programs and every other program also, that also is restricting your teachers to be able to fully be involved in this coaching experience, and also just resistance to change. Realizing that every person, and of course, we're going to discuss this again in our next session, every person is not willing to take on instructional coaching for many different reasons. And we will definitely, lift that up more when we're talking around relationships also. I see the chat. Wow, I love it. We need another hour. I tell you.
I know. There's some good things here, and a lot lifted up that we even see every day is understaffing. So a lot of staffing issues, high turnover, protected time.
Yes.
That's a big one that we see all the time. Yep, the protected time. Yep, so many factors.
So ideally, knowing that we do have these challenges, we just have to kind of think around how we can be creative. How can we meet these needs at our sites? Knowing that ideally, we want the site culture to be there, collaboration to be there, leadership supporting us, and all of these components to create what we are looking at as our ecosystem approach. You will hear this continuously through our coaching course, ecosystem approach, and a child's ecosystem. What does this really mean? If we can just click on our next slide, we really just want to lift up these elements. And don't worry, I know this looks like a lot. However, we are dropping all of these documents in a folder, and we will send this out to you and also provide you with a link on this. But just looking through some of these things, I'm not going to go into detail in them, but I really would love for us to kind of just think about these and think about your site. Are you seeing these things at your site? I still see responses in our chat. Oh man, I love you guys. We need to stay on here for like another 15 minutes.
Yes. Yes.
But I do want to just lift up just maybe one or two of these. Well, okay, I'll get quiet. I get so excited around this. But just thinking around these elements that you see here, as far as a safe and responsive climate, making sure that we're honoring our children. We want to hear their voices. We want to lift that up. We don't want to silence them at all. Also looking at element 2, wanting to provide a culturally responsive environment. What does that mean? Having music, books, words that actually represent the cultures and the language in the classroom, conversational partners, really lifting up, having those meaningful conversations and giving those children that voice. I'm not going to continue because you guys can read the rest of those. I really want to share this really brief video in our next slide. And this is an example of element 3, the one that I talked around conversational partners. I want you just to quickly look at this interaction. Notice this is even at mealtime, where this is a time where it usually is silence because you have to eat. But let's look at this and see what you notice in this interaction.
Can you tell me what happened when the hungry caterpillar got the stomach ache? What happened?
And then he ate the leaf.
And he ate the leaf. And how did the leaf make him feel?
Yummy!
You made him feel
yummy! And then he was so big, like a giant.
And yes, he was a very big caterpillar. He wasn't a small caterpillar anymore. And then what did he do after he finished eating the leaf?
He pushed his way out.
No, there was another step that happened. He went inside his chrysalis.
Yes,
and he slept inside his chrysalis. And then what happened?
Turned into a butterfly.
He did. And what is that process called when a caterpillar turned into a butterfly? You're right.
Okay, could we hear that? Oh, yes, I definitely. Yes. Many of you could, because I see the responses. Advanced vocabulary, yes. You know, I actually had the honor to work with that teacher. And when I heard metamorphosis, I was like, holy smokes, this is a tier 3 word they're using at lunchtime. So I definitely noticing, I want to hear from you guys. Just talk to us. What did you notice in this interaction? The relationship, yes.
Yeah. I love that the question, she actually took learning to the lunchroom area. I love when they extend learning all day. You know, we call it STEM throughout the day because it's really learning throughout the day. You can actually do your focus circle time during lunch to see the engagement of the children and the way that they taught back. This was not something that, and I hate to say this, but we were just doing this the other day. When you are getting ready for quality rated and there are different areas, it shouldn't be where you're coaching a teacher at any time. It should be automatic. And you can tell that this teacher engages her children with the responses of how he said one question and they just kept going. So that lets you know, right, feedback loop. That lets you know that it's a high enriched language environment.
Absolutely. I could not say that better, Charlisa. Definitely. There was, she was asking even open-ended questions, really wanting to hear from those children and allowing them to express themselves. Lifting that vocabulary. She was like, what was that called? Knowing that this was not, you know, a opposed or, you know, an interaction. You can definitely tell this is what, like you said, it wasn't just for quality rating. This was natural. This was a natural interaction that probably happens all day, every day. And that's what we want to see, is that consistency. I love the responses that we see in the chat. I could go on and on, but I tell you what, for the sake of time, Ashley,
Yes.
we're going to move on to the next slide.
And I'll take it away. So how do we measure these elements and know, how we're doing at each element that we observe as we're going throughout classrooms or even working with teachers? So we've developed an ecosystem construction measure to help guide this process. And this tool will allow you to observe each ecosystem element and determine the current status. So like, where are we now? It'll allow you to reflect, identify priorities for your coaching. So which areas will you focus on? You're able to set goals and develop a detailed action plan with the detailed steps. So how will you get there? And you're able to prioritize areas for coaching. So you and what we say, all the co-constructors, meaning everyone within that ecosystem measure. So everyone is working together to help create the optimal conditions that support children's learning. So everyone must be on the same page about where they are, where they want to be, and how and what will it take to get there. And the task of an instructional coach is to involve and support sites to achieve the goals, leading to ecosystem growth. And again, we will dive deeper into these documents and tools in the future, in our future coaching sessions here for the year-long journey. And all of these tools that we're mentioning today, again, I know Corinza mentioned this, we do have a resource folder, but they can also be found on Cox campus under our resource library. So we would really encourage you to go on and view all of these wonderful and helpful resources.
And that's where I come in again. So taking it away to our next slide. How do you find these documents? What's your next steps before we meet again? Cox Campus definitely correlates to each one of those essential ecosystem elements. All of those practices are in our next slide. If we can just show what I know that we just had you kind of sign in if you weren't familiar with Cox Campus. Well, first thing, what is your next step? If you have not taken this coaching course, I mean, take it. What can we say?
Take it.
Yes, take it. It's amazing. You once again, there are 3 courses that are on the site now, and you can see those there. If we click to our next, thank you so much. If you click on the link, even in our chat, that's how you can actually locate the Cox Campus. If we go to our next one, this is actually what our dashboard looks like. I'm sorry, go back just one more. This is what our dashboard looks like. I really want to lift up a few items on here because I really want to make sure that you realize that this Cox Campus is not just content and not just resources. We are so much larger than that. If you notice up at the top of these tabs, we have My Learning, we have Discussion, we have Families and Educators. So just to talk a little bit around discussions, this is a place where you're actually able to share with us your thoughts. Also, we have a community that is there to share information, ideas with. And also we are looking into actually having a section where you can have your own private groups for your own sites also. So that's extremely exciting. And we are going to lift that up more even in our next course. So definitely be there with us for that. And if we can go to our next slide, we just want to hear something from you. Go ahead, Ashley. Uh-oh, you're on mute.
I did it. Here we go. We are going to drop a link, or if it will be quicker, I know we're running out of time and we value your time. And thank you so much for staying with us. So maybe if you could just drop in the chat, you guys have been wonderful with the chat. If you could drop in the chat one word to describe how you're feeling about the information we shared today, that would be great.
I love it. Inspired, excited, inspired, supported. Thank you. Educated. Love it.
Yes. And just some reminders. We have our upcoming session on September 29th. It's developing relationships through conversation. This infant toddler. Their session starts at 3 o'clock and ends at 4. And then there's one for preschool, pre-K 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. So that will be the next session around developing relationships through conversations. And those are the 2 age groups and the times there. And we want to know, how did we do? We are going to drop a poll and just let us know how we did during this session. We would love to hear your feedback. That way we can inform our next sessions that are coming up. I'll give you some time to take that poll. And we are going to just leave up the next slide. We hope and can't wait to see you back for our next session. We will be back, Corinza and I both, November 10th from for 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We are going to be talking more around those coaching relationships. Relationships are the heart of coaching. You guys shared so many valuable insights today. So we would love for you to join us as we dig deeper into instructional coaching and into the relationships of an instructional coach. So
absolutely.
See you there.
Thank you. And yes, share this with more. I see we have quite a few people today in here, but definitely share this, and we're definitely looking forward to having great dialogue with you next time, November 10th.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you. You guys were awesome. Thank you.